All right, so kind of take two for this one. I dropped Delicious in Dungeons anime. It was just not for me. I had very superficial issues with it, but it was grating on me. But listen, I'm not somebody who loves world building above everything else. It's not a priority for me in anime or manga. But I can recognize when it is done exceptionally well, and the history of this world, the dynamics, the relationships between characters and races and cultures, and the focus on ecosystems and everything about this world, the dungeon itself being a living creature in Delicious in Dungeons. I could not get over. I needed to experience this, but it just wasn't clicking for my brain in the anime. So I gave the manga a chance. And it fixed every issue I had. Yet there is basically no difference, really, between the anime and the manga. Yet somehow the manga fixed all my problems. My main two-ish issues being the opening segment and not matching the tone. So in the anime, we open up with a very dramatic and very dark animated scene of the party member's friend slash sister Fallen being eaten by a dragon as the party is defeated. They're weakened from hunger, and she uses a spell to get them out of the dungeon, and now they have to get down there to save her. Now, my issue being with the focus and tone of this series, because you open with this such dramatic scene, and again, the lighting, it's very serious. It's almost, not quite horror, but it's getting there. And then for it to switch so abruptly to slapstick comedy and just lightheartedness, that tonal shift from the beginning of episode 1 and then going into a completely different tone, it was so jarring to me that my brain just couldn't process it, really. I'm set up with one thing and now you've switched gears, and that clashing of tones. I don't like clashing tones sometimes. Sometimes it works. This was not one of those times. In the manga, we have a chapter 0 where they're already in very low levels with a character that is not even introduced till like the very end of season 1. And you start off with this lighthearted tone. You start off with the goofiness. You start off with them being like, all right, let's find some monsters to eat. And that tone matches the rest of the series pretty much identical as what you really get going forward. And then, of course, you get the scene with her being eaten by the dragon. But the coloration, the panel design, the line weight, everything matches really the rest of the manga. It doesn't feel like an abrupt shift, and that just works a lot better for my brain. Now, my second issue is really the focus of the main character. Now, I like Laos. He is a good pseudo-protagonist. They're all kind of equally important, but he's the brother to the character who has been eaten and has the most to gain. He's driving the narrative to get to his sister, as well as he's the one who really, really, really wants to eat monsters. His special interest is eating monsters. So we'll call him the protagonist. And I do like his very, naive is probably the wrong word, but not being able to recognize the social cues of others in his fixation of interest in monsters, their history, how they adapt, how they live, what makes them special and unique, and of course his obsession with wanting to eat them. But not understanding like social cues when someone's annoyed with him, when they want him to stop talking like this. I do like that aspect of his character, but at the same time, your sister was just eaten. How is 100% of your focus not how do we get to her as soon as possible? Why is part of it, oh, I want to spend some time eating out of this painting, or I want to spend this time looking for this very specific ingredient that would pair well with our meal, rather than spending that time traveling through the dungeon. Seriously, it feels like Teehee, I'm having a conversation with you, and I'm telling you about all this fun stuff that we've been doing and eating. Check out my new sword. Oh, by the way, we did this thing that I'm redacting due to spoilers. Yeah, that's fine. Did I mention we've been eating monsters? They taste really good. We should really eat this other monster. It really feels like the priority of saving the sister is on the same level as eating unique monsters. And I feel like she should be given a little bit higher priority in the story. It really would have worked a lot better with me if they just wanted to adventure down to the dungeon to find the secrets of the dungeon, and you didn't have that driving narrative of the sister being eaten and the time crunch of her being digested and can only be damaged so much before you can't resurrect them. That way, the slapstick comedy slower pacing, especially in the anime, would not feel like the entire time I'm going, yeah, I'm happy you're having fun. I'm happy you're sitting down and having a good meal. You could probably walk while you're eating this. Did we have to spend all this time looking for this ingredient? You could have ate the egg without the mandrake root kind of thing. I just felt like they should have been a little bit more focused, or at least brought up the fact that Fallen has been eaten by a dragon. We gotta get there a little bit sooner. Can we pick up the pace a little bit? In the anime, it felt a little bit too much slapstick humor and goofing off in the anime. I don't know what to tell you about why the manga works better. I think it's because I pick my own pacing. I choose how fast I read, whether compared to the anime, where it can spend a couple extra seconds with its absolutely gorgeous, cute, beautiful animation, and it's cutting to characters' expression, making gross out faces, as Marcel does not want to eat the monster, and she'll stomp around for a couple extra seconds, say, no, I don't want to eat it, I don't want to eat it, I don't want to eat it. Where in the manga, it's a single panel, and I can just keep moving on. So the pacing just works so much better for me with the manga. So if you're like me and have any issues with what I just said, it works so much better in the manga. And that allowed me to experience the absolute delight of the world building of this unique series, and I'm so happy I have. So I'm halfway through, so I've only finished what is covered in season 1, and then I'm definitely going to continue the manga just to... Is it finished? I don't know if the manga is finished, but I'm very excited because the history of this city of gold, essentially, that has been lost to history, buried beneath the surface in this dungeon with the mad mage who has taken over and put a curse on the dungeon. Okay, my issue number 3. When you die, your soul is trapped in the dungeon. And I did not like that, as it really lowers the stakes, as anyone can just be resurrected. Same thing, sister's just going to be resurrected, provided she's in a good enough state that her body hasn't been decomposed to an extent that it's unrecognizable. There's too many pieces missing that they can't be brought back. But everyone else, you got shot in the forehead, okay, we'll just heal that up. That's barely a flesh wound. Let's bring you back. So to me, the stakes were a little bit low, which made me not take the events that's happening that seriously. But when we go into the history of the kings and missing characters, and perhaps this mad mage putting that curse on the dungeon, so a certain one maybe can be brought back. I don't know the reason that this curse, I'm calling it a curse, who knows what it is, but this dungeon traps the souls and doesn't allow them to pass off, hooks them to the body until the body's unrecognizable. I feel like we're going to get even more into that in the future. Then you have the different cultures, elves, dwarves, gnomes, the tall men, half-foots, all of them with such distinct histories, talks of wars in the past, talks of the elves having given the humans this dungeon, yet they probably took it from the dwarves, as there's dwarven information deeper in the dungeon, and now the elves are talking about wanting it back, and you have characters who have seen what happens when dungeons collapse and the fallout it has on the town around them. You have orcs who have been displaced over and over again, and they're villainized and made to be these monsters, but really they're just trying to live and have a society, a place that they can call home, but they keep getting driven out by adventurers and humans and set on fire. It has such a unique history, world, the depths to it, even to the extent of the different dishes that they're making, inspired by real-life cuisines of different cultures, how everything just comes together so beautifully and works together. The dungeon itself, how it self-repairs, how it changes. It is a living ecosystem that you are experiencing and understanding the balance of it. If you overhunt monsters in this area or consume all the resources, that is a gap that the nature of the dungeon will have to change. Other creatures will move in to fill it, which may cause issues. It may result in monsters leaving the dungeons, which will result in more adventurers going in to push the monsters back. It's finding this balance, and I love it. Oh, it's so good. I do hear people praising the character work, and the characters are quite good. They're solid, but they do pale in comparison to the history of the world, the focus on ecosystems and balances. So the tone, the themes, the history, mythology of the different creatures, the focusing on how understanding the anatomy and how these creatures are created and how they act can help in hunting them, or how to live in balance with them. Yeah, that's where this series really shines to me. The characters are fine. I'm not blown away by them by any means, but they have made a good group. They have come together, and they all have different unique viewpoints, both of themselves and the world that they're in. I think one of my favorite elements was Chilchuck, the half-foot, talking about how sailors used to bring half-foots on the ship with them, so if a mermaid was singing, their sensitive ears would result in the half-foot dying first, giving the humans time to get away and save themselves. And I was like, hey, is that why you brought me when there was mermaids around? And that is not answered. Just the different superstitions between changelings and trolls. They all have different viewpoints in culture, history, as well. When you had shapeshifters, the shapeshifters was probably one of my favorite elements, just because they get their ability to change into different people based on how the people around you see you. So if somebody thinks, oh, your nose is a little bit bigger, or that's what you were wearing isn't a scarf, it was some other piece of clothing, or they can't remember how your hair looked exactly, you're going to get those little details, and depending on how observant the people around you are will be more accurate to how the changeling looks. And I love it. I love little details. I can stand to gush about the characters a little bit more, because Marcella, in School with Fallen, their connection, wanting to understand how dungeons are created, how they are sustained, how they live and thrive rather than collapse in on themselves or fail. I absolutely loved those moments with her in school. Top 3 probably favorite moments of the series. I really love their dynamic, their friendship, and their history together. That being said, I am still very mad. There's a chapter with Lau saying, like, he left home because of how people were mean to his sister. So he left home a year before she did. It's like, you were the one person who understood her completely, and you left her alone in that town. Are you not thinking? He didn't think a lot of the consequences of his actions right there. He was just upset, so he left and didn't think of the social consequences that had. That's very much his character. Senshi, absolute delight. His history with the dwarves, and how now he has just such a passion, a need to feed, like, the younger generation, to see that they grow strong, and the sacrifices, the responsibility he puts on himself to see that they have a balanced nutrition diet, and the reason for it. Oh my god, his history. Yes, completely loved that moment. That's probably my favorite moment. The Mad Mage's presence. I only have like a snippet of their history, their relationship with the royal family, and I already love them. Their presence is immense. These characters, I know I was saying the characters aren't that great. It's like, it's not the highlight, it's not why I'm continuing this series. But by God, they do have some really good moments. I love how it takes classics that you hear in fantasy stories or Dungeons and Dragons or something, like walking armor. That's just a staple that I've seen in multiple shows. Like Scooby-Doo, I'm pretty sure has done that. Yeah, Scooby-Doo has done that. And usually, even in this world, they think it's the magic. There's a sorcerer controlling the suits of armor. But no, they have such a unique little twist to it here that I have not seen or heard of or thought of, and I love it. Oh, the creativity, the imagination, the focus on detail to this world and this dungeon. I cannot give it enough praises. I still have a small issue with the focus and the lack of stakes with just being able to be resurrected. That being said, our group is not so great at resurrecting, so they do have a little bit more danger if something was to happen to them. And again, the pacing works a lot better for me in the manga. So while I have tried like 3 separate times to watch the anime, and I have not been able to do it, I keep dropping it, I keep trying, because I can feel the love and the focus and the detail of the history in the world. I just couldn't watch it in the anime. The manga hit absolutely perfect for me. So I am begging you, if you're one of the very few minority, because everyone's loving the anime, but if it didn't work for you like it didn't work for me, try the manga, because by God, it's wonderful. All right, that is all I got. Quick short video. Talk to you later. I'll let you know when I finish off the manga.